something to talk about, you want to fuss at me or whatever, the phone number to call in here is 254-773-1400. That's 773-1400. Kind of the same numbers as on your AM dial. This is KTEM 1400 on your AM dial on your radio. So anyway, if you got something to fuss about or talk about or comment about, feel free to call in. I do ask that you keep your conversation civil and polite and that kind of thing. We got a switch on the telephone over here, and if you go to using vulgar language, we're going to hit that switch. But at any rate, feel free to call in if there's something you want to talk about.
Well, or you want to tell us how your Thanksgiving was, because we forgot to wish you happy Thanksgiving last week before we exited the air, and we sincerely apologize that. We hope that everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And today's my husband's birthday, so happy birthday, Ron.
Well, there you go, Ron. Well, we hope that everyone had a good Thanksgiving, and we hope that somewhere in that process that you were thankful for this nation that we live in, this Republic of the United States of America. This is not a democracy. Democracies don't work. They never have worked in the history of the world. Republics work because you cannot, at the whim of anybody, change the Constitution. It's a long process. And that's why we're more stable and have been for, 230 or 40 years or whatever it is. So I would encourage all of us to be thankful for the nation we live in. And if that makes you a nationalist, then so be it.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go.
Last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Before we hit the air, here we go.
Tina warned me that I was going to get something started here, but
yep.
All I can say is I'm in good company because Donald Trump claims to be a nationalist.
Well, I think a nationalist is fine, but when you start putting colorful names in front of them, as in race color, then I think it starts murking up the waters for when somebody goes to Google it or goes DuckDuckGo or whatever, because there's so much on the internet that has been exploited that the younger generation that aren't savvy to what, we have experienced in our lives and the things that we know to be different, then it gets very confusing and they don't know what you're talking about, and then it just feeds the left in their arguments.
Well, and Tina's right, and I really do appreciate Tina's help up here. Like
you heard it. You're a witness, people.
We were just talking about the fact that I love this nation, and I guess that makes me a nationalist, and the good Lord saw fit for me to be born white. So if that makes me a white nationalist, then I'll plead guilty to that.
There might have been a purple feller somewhere down there in your background or something.
There probably is some Asian.
An alien?
No,
I was thinking alien.
Well, my ancestors may have been from Mars or something.
Yeah,
I don't
something,
know.
yeah.
At any rate, in the discussion we had, Tina turned to her iPhone there, smartphone, whatever it is, and she Googled nationalist, black nationalist, white nationalist, whatever.
It's all bad.
And it's all bad. And some of the information defining nationalism comes from, guess who? The Southern Poverty Law Center. If you depend on Google to tell you what a white nationalist is, the Southern Poverty Law Center can tell you all about it. And now what disturbs me about that is, are we not using our mental ability, our common sense, our logic to tell us what a nationalist is?
Some of us have had that cerebral capability stolen from us. It's been sucked right out. Like, the old movie, The Body Snatchers, it was the brain snatchers.
Yeah, it is. We are the computers and the internet and the smartphones and the Google, all that kind of stuff. You can't use your own brain to come to your own conclusions. You have to run to that cell phone and punch Google, and that tells you what a nationalist is. Well, here is Joe from Belton. He's going to tell me what a nationalist is. Go ahead on, Joe.
Oh, well, no, I wasn't going to tell you. I was just going to ask you, does anybody ever read the dictionary?
No.
Well, you should see what's under in Webster's under some of these. It's not
Is
good
that
either.
right?
Yeah.
We read it, and I liked it. You know, a nationalist is who loves their nation.
No.
And what's on that?
The nationalist part was good, but he was using some other terms that he had heard elsewhere, and I started telling him, I said, I don't think those are workable terms. Let's go look them up and see what other people are going to find. And they were explicitly not pretty.
Yeah, and, you know, all of this, I guess my question to all of us today is, who is controlling your thought process? Who's controlling what your brain produces? Is it Google?
It's mostly internet today.
It's social?
It's Google, internet, everything.
Well, they don't make encyclopedias anymore.
Yeah.
They don't sell dictionaries anymore, really.
I agree with you.
You know,
Anyway, I like what Trump's doing.
well, I do too.
I
You
just wanted to comment on it.
know. I'm glad you called in, Joe.
You have a blessed day.
Well, you too, and you be careful out there, and thank you for your call. I'm glad there's somebody out there that agrees with me. Well, I guess Donald Trump agrees with me, but
Well, I agree with you, too.
yeah, but what really concerns me is, have we as a nation lost our ability to use our own brain and define nationalism? What is it? And is it some kind of a terrible, awful, bad sin to like the nation you live in? Why is it okay for somebody from the Congo to like the Congo, but it's not okay for an American to be proud of the nation he lives in? Why is that such a horrible crime?
Well, I have one for you, because I know you're going to circle back to this, because this is your theme of the day, okay? So how is that little island in India, okay, that the Indian government does not allow anybody to go to for their own safety and for the safety of the 50-some-odd plus, you know, people that have been there since the Stone Age, supposedly, you know, they will protect their island, their sovereignty, if you will, okay, their world, their bubble, with bows and arrows, and are successful at it, and have been successful at it for decades. I think the last time somebody tried to get on there was in the 50s, okay? Yet we have some little peon judge, you know, some low-level judge that can come in and completely underdo a president's rule or law or implementation of law that's already in place to protect our country. Do people not understand, if they had an aerial view of what those 5,000, 7,000 aliens, invaders, migrants, refugees, whatever you want to call them, as they storm the border and they leave the Mexico side and they come to the American side, what that is going to look like? They are bigger than an entire town. What are we supposed to do with them? And, you know, there's at least 500 in this group that are known felons.
Well, and, you know, someone just criticized somebody in Hollywood, I don't know, the use of our military to help the Border Patrolmen. If you have several thousand people wanting to push over the fence, as they did on the southern border, if you have that and you've got 20 Border Patrolmen standing there, and all of those 5,000, whatever it is, have got a rock. Sure, those 20 Border Patrolmen have a pistol on them, but that's not going to last very long. Those 20 patrolmen will lose their life in about 2 minutes.
Well, and they're too afraid to fire on them, I'm sure.
Yeah, if they did defend themselves, there'd be some bleeding heart liberal want to put them in jail for it. I'll never forget when, I forgot their name, but there was 2 Border Patrolmen that shot a drug pusher. This is back during the George Bush administration. He was a fleeing felon, and they shot him, and both of those Border Patrolmen went to the penitentiary. Now, you know, what is wrong with this? And that was George W. Bush that did that. Don't we understand defending ourselves, defending our border, defending our country? what is wrong with somebody that does not want to defend our borders, and they don't want the military? Now, I understand posse comitatus. I understand that argument, but that does not involve posse comitatus when we're having National Guard military helping to protect our borders. They are not doing anything to capture American citizens within the boundaries of this country. They're defending the country from an invasion. And if you think 7,000 people are not an invasion, why don't you run down there at the border and stand there in front of them and see if you can stop them? There's been criticism of Donald Trump that said, well, I've told the Border Patrol and whoever, if they throw a rock at you, shoot them. Well, people will say, that's not fair. They just had a rock, and the patrolman had 9mm. Well, have you ever been hit in the head by a rock? Now they can take a sling, and they can take a rock as big as a baseball and sling it. They can throw that thing 100 yards or something. And I might remind folks that when old David killed Goliath, he didn't have a 30-06. He had a rock. So
the wars of yesteryear, many, hundreds of years ago, that were won that way.
So I'm just saying, I think that we need to defend our borders. I'm like Donald Trump. I back him up 100%.
Well, now they've had all that taken away from them. They're not even armed. They're going to have a baton and a shield.
Well, if you want to see some dead border patrolmen, that's the way to get them, is put them out there in front of thousands of people crossing the border with a stick.
Well, how many of those that are invading don't have a knife or a shank or some other thing, or a gun, or guns?
Well, pick up a beer bottle, hit it on a rock and break it, and then that is a sharp weapon.
Aren't they supposed to approach the border today waving white flags? Oh, we're innocent. We surrender to you. We're submissive. We'll do whatever you want. But they're not coming through the gates.
Well, I think last week I was talking about the little Filipino lady that described what the Japanese soldiers were doing in the Philippines when they invaded the Philippines. And it's brutal, ugly, and I won't repeat it again, but one of the tactics that the Japanese army was using in the Philippines, I had a very good friend that helped raise me, and he had been in the Philippines in the U.S. Army. And what they would do is they would take the women and children in the village and put them out front to push them up against the U.S. soldiers that had a machine gun or whatever they had. Well, right behind the women and children was the Japanese soldiers with a loaded rifle with a bayonet on it. And our troops had to kill the women and kids in order to defend against the soldiers with a bayonet and a loaded rifle. Okay, are we seeing that same tactic used now on the border? Are they going to take the women and children, all of 30% of the entire group is women and kids. The other 70% is military-age males. So are they going to put the women and kids out front to oppose our Border Patrolmen and our National Guard? And then what's behind them? Young military-age males with a rock, or a broken beer bottle, or a knife, or a machete, or whatever else they might have. We have to defend our borders, folks. If you can't defend your borders, you don't have a nation.
And what they're doing is they're just whittling away at us a little at a time, keep stuffing the stuff down our throats, and these, wouldn't say baby bites, they're enough to choke you, but until they can get enough people over here to replace your votes and to outvote you so they can have their way. That's exactly what's happening, and they're just taking their time doing it over decades. Well, this has been going on for 30 years.
Yeah, there's nothing new about this. They've been trying to overthrow the United States government for years. George Soros, Tom Steyer, people like that.
The Clintons,
Barack Obama. I keep quoting Barack Obama, but it's true. It's what he said. I didn't say it. He said it. He said, I want to fundamentally change America.
You know, the one thing is, at least he was honest about it.
Yeah,
Everybody else came in stealthy.
yeah, but the American people, most of them were so dad blame stupid they didn't understand what he was saying. Are we losing our ability to use our own brain, our own common sense, to interpret the words, like in that case, or the word nationalism? Oh, we can't defend with our own brain what nationalism is. We have to resort to Google or to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Well, they're working on connectivity thinking instead of independent thinking. Hence the Google.
Well, it is, and I keep bringing it up, but do you know what subliminal messaging is?
If you don't, he's going to tell you.
Yeah, if you don't understand it, there's no use me talking about it. But it's what goes into your subconscious in your brain that you don't realize is there.
That's being fed to you.
Yeah, it's being fed to you either through movie, films, or propaganda on television, or I might refer to
Integrated storylines.
yeah. Look at commercials on TV, and I won't go any further than that. But watch
Well,
the.
okay. Well, here's an easy one that would keep you out of trouble that we talked about earlier today. Okay, so if you are watching your favorite TV series, okay, or and they have a Ford truck that they've put in there, and they haven't taken the badges off of it, so it still says Ford, and they talk about how, oh, I got myself a nice new Ford truck, or it's the new company truck, or whatever, and look at the seats. Well, guess what? You've just been fed. You've been fed a commercial, okay, for it. And that's the subliminal. You know, if they drink a soda and it's not covered and it's not in a glass and you get to read the can, or a coffee cup and you get to read the can, or the logo's the same as something else that you buy, like Starbucks, you've just been hit with a commercial.
Yeah, and you know, the first time I ever heard of subliminal messaging was back in the 40s. Coca-Cola would put a Coke sign in every 10th movie frame in a movie. So that 10th picture went by so fast, your conscience didn't remember it, but your subconscious did.
You got thirsty and bought it.
You'd get thirsty and get up and you'd go buy a Coke. It was called subliminal messaging. Okay, right now look at commercials on TV, and I won't elaborate on that much, but watch the commercials and use your brain for something besides a place to put your hat. Watch those commercials and tell me why this percent of the people is in your face this percent of the time. Or why is there this percent of the people in your face all the time, but this percent over here is not? It's left out. Why is that? You know, just ask yourself the question of what you're looking at and what is it doing to your brain.
Aaron's getting ready to tell us we had it.
Yeah.
This gives me go to a break.
Okay, well, we got to pay a few bills around here, folks, so I will shut up for just long enough to talk about some good sponsors of this show. Aha! Talk to him, Bob. Tell him how to play that fiddle, that guitar, and do that good old Texas music. It makes you want to get out there and shuffle that sawdust on that dance floor.
Yeah, y'all missed it. Conn was in here dancing behind the desk.
Yeah, I would I'd be tempted to.
Yeah, all we need was a bucket of sawdust, and we never would have stopped him.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand modern music, but I do understand old Bob Wills and Texas Playboys. And I still like to listen to them. I sure do. Okay, Tina is bugging me to get back on the subliminal messaging conversation here about different things that's affecting our ability to think. And so, Tina.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, caller, for calling because I got caught completely off guard.
Yeah.
We do have a caller, and their name is...
It's Bill in Temple. Bill,
you're the winner.
You want to get in on this here conversation?
Yes, sir. I'd like to add a little bit, too, there.
There you go.
They've got a thing on these commercials. You'll watch this commercial, and they'll say something 2 to 3 times, which is considered brainwashing. And it's against the law, but they do it, and seem to be getting away with it.
Well, they do get away with it, Bill, and that's what is disturbing to me. Just for example, and I'll try to get off this subject, but recently I looked at a Progressive insurance commercial, and it showed about a 15-year-old kid in a grocery basket in the grocery store pulling things off the shelf and throwing them on the floor. Now, if you had a 5-year-old kid seeing that commercial on television, what is going into that 5-year-old kid's brain? You're telling that 5-year-old kid, here is an example for you to follow, and it's okay for you to do this.
Because it's on TV.
Is that what we want to teach our children? And if you watch the commercials for Progressive Insurance Company, I wouldn't buy Progressive Insurance if they sold it to me free. I want nothing to do with them, because they're using subliminal messaging to what?
To change our opinions and our culture.
Yeah, change the way we live in this country, and I don't like that. There's nothing I can do about it except talk about it on this radio. But I'm telling you, a Progressive insurance man don't need to come see me. I'm going to throw him out the front door.
You feel the same way about AARP and
yes,
several other companies.
I do. I think that when you hear these commercials on the radio or on television, and you see it over and over and over and over, what is going into your brain? What's happening to your subliminal thinking? I don't know.
That's true. I've noticed, like you go to a theater and they'll have this intermission, and they use that subliminal just like you're talking about. They'll flash a popcorn and a soda water and a candy bar.
Well, and you get up and go do it. But likewise, when you send your young son or daughter to the University of Texas to be taught by the PhD-holding, super smart professor that's never done a dad blame thing in his life except stay in the classroom, protected from the outside world, but he is teaching your son or daughter how to live life. Why do we do that? I'm not going to send my son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter over there. I don't want them to be brainwashed by some left-wing progressive liberal. But I guess if they stay at home and watch Progressive Insurance commercials on TV, they're being brainwashed by that anyway. But anyway, enough about that, I guess, Bill.
About what Hitler said, you start with the kids. The old people going to die off. So once you get the kids under control, you got it.
Who was it that made the statement? I think it might have been old Adolf. Give me the youth of a nation, and I'll give you the nation.
That was Hitler. Yeah.
Yeah, and I might remind people that when the high school students in Killeen, Texas were marching down the street demonstrating against the Second Amendment, who sponsored them? It was in the Temple Daily Telegram newspaper that they were sponsored by the NAACP and the Democratic Party in Bell County.
Look at the money Obama poured into all these organizations just to keep that up.
Yeah.
Well, in the New York Post, okay, this is a little excerpt, okay, of the editorial in there about the new Grinch movie. And it says, this holiday season, kids are discovering a new and more considerate, less scary Grinch. A Grinch to take home with your mother. This Grinch, sorry, I have a little bit of allergy stuff going on today. This is a Grinch film with 0 point beyond continuing society's destructive habit of protecting kids from the harmless and potentially useful stories. Instead, we insist on shielding little ones from the harsh realities of the world so that when they finally enter it, they will prefer the warm embrace of their parents' basement.
Well, I guess the big question I've got, Bill, is for our listening audience. What is the goal? What is the end result that Hollywood and the liberal left want?
Socialism.
Exactly.
Simple.
Here we have, like Angela Merkel in Germany, she thinks that we ought to give up our sovereignty, open our borders to the world. That's what she thinks America ought to do. Now, she don't live here. She lives in Germany, and that's what they've done over there, and it's a horrible, bad mistake. But they criticize Donald Trump for wanting to protect our borders, so we should open our country to the world. You know, there's 7.5 billion people in the world, and about half of them want to come to America. Is that what we want to do?
Absolutely not.
They have a waiting list of like 20 million right now that want to come here.
Yeah, it's, well, thanks a lot, Bill, for the call. You got me stirred up now. You be careful out there.
Yes, sir.
If you call, what is that, the chain migration thing?
Yeah, the
so
chain
if you have the
migration.
20 million, then you're looking at least 40 to 50 million with the chain migration if it's still in place.
Well, for everyone you bring in here, let's say the birthright citizenship thing. Just read the other day somebody talking about it.
Yeah, Trump's
When-
trying
when-
to.
When you allow
get it
that to
picked
happen, when that child becomes 18, then they can sponsor their mother, their daddy, their cousin, their uncle, their aunt. It can be 22 other people can come here.
Seriously.
Yeah, 22 per one.
Unbelievable.
So, you know, what are we doing to ourselves? We're committing genocide. Is just a slow form of destroying our country with these liberal left-wing ideas. And let me bring up something here. Oh, Lord, done got started now. All the fires in California. Look at the devastation. Look at the loss of life. 1,400 buildings burned, 80 people dead, or whatever it is.
Almost 90.
Look at that. And I guess I'll make somebody mad. That, folks, is a self-inflicted wound. They would not let anyone cut a tree in the forest. There was a lady with the U.S. Forest Service made the statement. In California's forest, there's 300 trees per acre. There was 129 million dead trees laying on the ground. The legislature passed a statute that would allow people to harvest or to deal with the dead trees. And Governor Brown vetoed the legislation. Oh, no. You have to protect not just the live trees, you have to protect the dead trees. Now, what is good fire material? Dead trees, dead brush. Now, I'm just saying, I feel sorry for those people out there, but that is a self-inflicted wound. They did it to themselves. And I feel sorry for them, and I know I should have more empathy for them because they lost everything. But
you
that
do have
blame,
empathy, but if you don't want it to happen again, then it has to be rectified. And to rectify it, you have to deal with the truth.
Well,
What's the issue?
And, these tree-hugging progressive liberals that want to protect every tree and even the dead trees, that is so insane.
Well, I'm a tree hugger, but I tell you what, I know how to cut the undergrowth.
Yeah.
And all the dead stuff and clear it out so that it's pretty and the good trees that I want to hug on can stay vibrant.
Well, I love a lot of things. I love animals. I love dogs. But just for example, every once in a while somebody comes down the farm market road in front of our place and they put out a dog that they don't want. Okay, I come by and the dog is over killing our chickens or chasing our calves or starving. Just starving. So what do? I shoot the dog. I don't like to shoot the dog, but because some moron in town didn't want to deal with his own problem, now I have to deal with it. So I'm just saying, so much of our problems are caused by very nice, gentle, sweet people that love trees or love animals or love whatever else. They don't live in the same real world that I live in. I'm sorry about that, but I live in a different world than the college students and the college professors and the legislators and the swamp in Washington, D.C. I don't live in the same world.
You mean the people that can create their own worlds or have had their own worlds created for them?
Well, I keep saying that I believe common sense is a product of experience. If you spent your whole life in the college dorms or in the college classrooms, you don't have any experience. And I think that we have got... you want to say something?
Oh, yes. I hate to interrupt, but Joe called back in Belton. He had an off-the-air question. Well, more of a concern. He wondered what your thoughts were on the Supreme Court in terms of why there's such a big fuss about the party affiliation of a potential justice. If the role of the court is to be impartial and strictly constitutional, why do we see things like the Kavanaugh debacle unfold?
Because they can.
Because that was a perfect demonstration of the swamp wanting to control our lives. And one way you control our lives is you control the Supreme Court. You control all of the federal judges. For example, the federal judge that just issued a restraining order against Donald Trump enforcing the border. So if the far left-wing progressive liberals who hate America and want to destroy it, if they can control the Supreme Court...
Well, why did they go out and shop for that particular judge in that particular district? Because they could. But I mean, in a perfect world, we would have judges that walked in and actually dealt with the body of the law rather than their own ideology, and then tried to implement their ideology through the law. Okay? And that's what's going on. And the left knows this. Well, I mean, probably both sides shop that way, but the right doesn't do it very often. They're not out shopping for judges. They don't take somebody to court very often because they don't have the Constitution to do it. But the left, they live that day in and day out. That's their livelihood. That's their God. That's their Bible.
You're absolutely right. They wake up every morning thinking about how to control the United States of America and everybody that lives in it, and how to convert the United States into the one world order. I believe that is their goal, and what stands in their way of accomplishing that is people like Donald Trump and Tina and me and Aaron and Ed in Idaho.
You know, the first time I ever heard about the one world order when I was a child was when Bush Sr. was in office. I'm sure it happened before then, but that's the first time I remember it. So we're going back that far.
Well, his father was a big fan of the one world order, and I think Ed's going to tell us all about how great the one world order could be.
No, he won't. No, he won't.
How's that putting it on you, Ed?
Well, I'll tell you what. You've all latched on to some good topics of conversation, and I have some input on all of them.
Oh, good.
Firstly, with this subliminal advertising that you touched on, we all have been getting massive doses of that through the media, that being the news, the school system, everything. It's not subliminal. It is actually impacting, and it's propaganda. And we repeatedly ask ourselves the question, how do we get in this situation? Well, we've just been barraged with propaganda our whole lives. Misinformation, disinformation, just like Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler, tell a big lie long enough and people will believe it.
Yep.
Well, turn on your media news, and that's what you're going to get. It's propaganda.
Well, and how do we get out of it, Ed? That's my question. And I think I would answer my own question by saying we need to reestablish a value in truth, not in political correctness.
Absolutely. And, how do we get out of it? That's a great question. It's a rhetorical question. Well, 5 agencies control all the media. So how do you deal with that? You have to expose it somehow. The other issue is actually the illegal invasion across our border. Look how that's being dealt with by the media. They're showing women and children in the front lines, but when you look at other sources of information, it's 95% males, young males crossing through that border.
Yeah, and this idea of downplaying the danger of Iraq. They make fun of that like someone is throwing an air balloon or something. But the people that make fun of that have never been hit in the head by a rock. And it brings up another subject I'm going to talk about here one of these days. I'd like to have a lawyer on the show and have him tell us if someone tries to throw a brick through your windshield on your car or try to drag you out like they did in Los Angeles when they stopped that concrete truck driver. They drug him out and beat him. I don't think they killed him, but they tried to.
They almost did.
With a brick or a cinder block, something concrete. At any rate, when are you legally able to defend yourself, be it shoot them, run over them, do whatever? But I think when we understand that you have the right to defend yourself from bodily harm, I think that's going to start the next civil war.
Well, you brought up a good point when you brought up David and Goliath, and there's a lot of other people that have been killed by rocks. If I may, I'd like to address this California fires issue as well. Now, just to kind of throw another view on this, there are people that have exposed these fires as being sourced by what's known as directed energy warfare. Now, in the aerial views of these fires, the homes are burnt, the cars are burnt, but the trees and the shrubbery surrounding the homes are not burned. And there has been additional information saying that PG&E has been a source of this directional warfare. PG&E is owned by the Rothschilds, and they do not have our best interests in mind.
Well, yeah, I don't. There are so many questions that we have about the inner working of things, the backroom deals that we don't know about. It's really scary. It's really mind-boggling when you look at this kind of thing or what goes on in Washington, D.C. behind closed doors. What you see on the surface may look good, feel good. Oh, it's really, really nice. It's feel-good legislation. But we don't understand the backroom deal behind the feel-good legislation. And we don't understand the unintended consequences. When Governor Brown stopped or vetoed the bill to get rid of the dead trees, 129 million of them, when he stopped that, I guess the poor dumb people in California applauded his decision to veto that bill. They did not understand the unintended consequences that burned up their home. You know, Now,
Right, and the source of information is very important. Now, Governor Brown, Jerry Brown, this is his second time around as governor. The first time he was in a position of being governor, he was voted out. Now, how can it be that a guy that was voted out once gets reelected?
Well, it could be, Ed, that somebody decided to do what they did in Minnesota when Al Franken defeated Norm Coleman. See, Ed Franken defeated Norm Coleman. He was Norm Coleman won the race until they found 650 ballots voting for Al Franken in the trunk of a car.
Vote early.
Days. Yeah.
Vote early, vote often, vote after, and vote until you win.
Yeah. And when are we, the people, going to wake up that that's happening? When are we going to wake up? Why are they fighting voter ID laws in Texas and other places? It's so they can let every illegal that crosses that border go down and vote for the liberal left Democrat candidate. When are we going to stand up and demand a stop to that? I don't know. Do the American people, have we lost our will to fight for freedom? Have we lost our will to defend the country? I think, never mind, that was
Aaron's playing over there.
Yeah.
That was a misfire.
Yeah, it was a misfire. Yeah. He's that or it was
he was giving Conn the 10-minute warning.
Yeah. Conn, you better shut up.
Well, I'm going to let you folks go and let somebody else get on the line and express their views.
Well, thank you, Ed, for getting me more stirred up than what I already was.
See, and there's the note. It says, break when you can. See, he was telling us there was a break.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go to break, folks, so y'all hang in there. We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
Tell them about it, Bob. Man, that's some of that good old-fashioned kind of Texas music. I just can't help but I like that.
Con, you're gonna have to stay off the desk. You're too old for that.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm too old for that, but I can still think about it.
Is that the way you're trying to make money for the show? Is like having somebody stick, $40 in your belt or something?
Yeah, something
table,
like that. Well,
table dancing.
We need to get some money for this show from somewhere because this show is going to go quietly into the night.
Sexy
folks.
senior citizen table dancing. That's how you're going to do it.
There you go.
Your wife is going to come unglued.
You want me to get up on the table and dance?
Not with me
music?
here. No. Well, yeah, maybe on the floor, not the table.
Well, you better cut that video machine off before I do that because I don't want you videotaping
and your
me
wife
falling
doesn't
off.
want me giving you any ideas either. Me being a smarty.
Oh my goodness. Well, since we're on that subject briefly, if you know anybody out there that would like to sponsor this show or keep it on the air, the phone number to call is
254-300-1885. And the last show is December the 29th if we don't get some more sponsors or donations to keep the show up.
Yeah, I do not fund this show out of my pocket, nor do I take any money from this show. I don't keep 1/4 out of this show.
And you're not paid to do the show.
And I'm not paid to do this show. Somebody asked me if I was paid. I said, no, I'm not paid, not one dime.
No, KTIM requires money for the airtime. And we need to be able to pay that bill. And so December the 29th looks like it may be the last show. So we need to pick up some more sponsors or some donations for it. And I know it's a rough time of year, and that's kind of why it's laxed here. But if you want to continue to hear us on the air, you want to be able to continue to call in and voice your opinions and have a place to voice your opinions and have somebody to stand in solidarity with you in your opinions, then please give us a call at 254-300-1885. That's 300-1885. And if you don't reach Mrs. Tatum right away, please leave a message. She'll call you back.
Yeah, and let me real quickly here say something about just really, really good people that help on this show. Now, I got one to talk about here is Converter Renewal Company in McGregor, Texas. Bless their heart, they're not sponsors of the show, but he did go out there and put you
on a billboard.
Put me on a billboard in McGregor,
but
Texas.
I think he needs a picture of you standing on the desk dancing.
Yeah, there you go.
See?
Now, that would get, but that might cause a wreck over there on Highway 84. We don't want to do that.
It might. Senior citizen with cash in his belt. Yeah, that might be.
Anyway, if you need a torque converter for your Chevrolet pickup or your Ford or your whatever it is, Converter Renewal Company in McGregor, Texas is the place to go to get that. And you will find them to be good, honest, Christian people. And I like to help good, honest Christian business owners, and he is one of them. So don't forget that name.
Yeah, do business with like-minded people like yourselves.
Yeah, and I Extreme Hose and Hydraulics out there on, I think it's 5300 South General Bruce Drive. Don't forget old Frank out there. If you need a hydraulic hose built, go by there and see him. His number is 231-3403, area code 254. Jack Folsom with Reed Realty. If you need to sell your house or buy a house, go by and talk to old Jack. His number is 760-4465. Now, he has changed locations. He's at 116 North 3rd Street. So go by there and see old Jack. Academy Paint and Body. They're one of our first sponsors, and they have stuck with us through
they have.
Through
They're
thick
wonderful.
and thin. And if you have any kind of body work done on your vehicle,
A deer has run out and attacked your car.
yeah. Now I had a hog attack the other day on my wife's Durango.
Oops.
I got run over by a hog. But anyway, go to Academy Paint and Body. Their phone number is 982-0044. Go by there and talk to them about doing your body work on your car.
We got a hard break coming.
And we got a hard break coming, so hang in there. We'll be right back.